All right. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So we're going live here in just a moment. And
Okay.
we're actually live on the Facebook page now, but I'm sharing that into the commercial roofer community. And
Okay. Yeah.
we'll do the darn thing. All right.
Sounds good.
All right. So it says I'm waiting on some feedback from the team. They're going to tell me as soon as we go live in the group. And then, like I said, I'll get us kick started here and we'll rock and roll.
Sounds great.
Boom. I think we're there, man. All right, cool. So give me just a second here. Pull up my notes so I can stick to the script and not end off out in left field somewhere here.
That's no problem.
So let me double check and make sure that there's people here in the community. I'm actually going to tag at everyone. All right, sick. Here we go, man. All right, cool. So, all right, we're going to do the thing finally, now that we've got through all the technical hurdles here. And if you guys are new to my world and have no idea who I am, my name's Cody Klein, and I'm the host here in this Facebook group, in this commercial roofer community Facebook group. And I run this Facebook group for fun because honestly, I'm probably the world's biggest roofing and business nerd, and I really thoroughly enjoy this. So I do that for fun. And my day job is I'm a managing partner at a consulting and investment firm called commercialroofer.com, where we help commercial roofing companies build their preventative maintenance programs and then sell the heck out of it. And part of the way as a consulting firm and investment firm that we give back to the industry is through doing virtual events and virtual interviews, podcasts, things of that sort, through virtual platforms like this, through our Facebook group. And wink, wink, maybe sometime in the near future, have some live events coming up, right? So be on the lookout for that. And a lot of times, I bring in guests to do these types of interviews where typically they have, I've seen them on a podcast, or I've ran across them doing something cool, where I was able to find them through social media. But the guy that I brought here today, Kevin, is he's a true hidden gem. And we crossed paths a few weeks back, and Kevin, right off the bat, right off the rip, was willing to come into my private community for all of our clients that we're helping build out their commercial divisions, and really just gave us the secret sauce. So he's built his own commercial roofing business up by leveraging relationships with property managers, really over the last 20 years of just really being in the trenches and, from rolling up his sleeves, just getting down and dirty with the people on his team to figure out what it takes to build these relationships and grow your company while working with these property managers. So without me rambling on for another 5 minutes, Kevin, can you hear me okay? And are you ready to rock and roll?
Yeah, I can. How are you?
Good, man. So Kevin, if you don't mind, what's the problem that we're trying to solve today? Or what's the problem that you see that we're going to kind of allude to and kind of share some info on?
Yeah, so I want to talk about really the behind the scenes look of what a property management company actually is. And really, there's two main goals that they serve, depending on the client that they have that owns that multifamily community or commercial plaza that they are representing on a daily basis.
Okay, cool. And so, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good. And then we'll talk about the two different categories of customers and really talk about top of mind awareness and networking through managers.
All right, cool. So I'm a commercial roofing company owner. Why would I need to know how the property managers do their job or how they operate? Like, what leverage does that give me as a commercial roofing business owner?
Well, let's equate it to fishing. So if you're going to go fishing for, let's say, a smallmouth bass, you're going to use a lure that's going to attract that bass to be able to want to bite. But it changes with the season.
Are we not fishing with hot dogs today? Or
I try not to use my flip flop and put it on the end of a rod and cast it out, but we could do the hot dog.
Fair enough. No, that's cool. That makes perfect sense. So it's basically learning how to talk the talk and say the right things and do things that are going to make us look more attractive to the property managers, enticing them to want to work with us. Is that pretty spot on?
100%.
Okay,
100%.
cool. Yeah, great. Where do you want to start with this? Do you just want to rock and roll and give us some thoughts, and then I'll ask questions? I'm genuinely curious about this subject. So within Kevin, I don't know if you know this about me or not, but basically I ran a roofing company for the last what feels like 200 years. And in 2021, I exited through an acquisition, but the primary bulk of our work was in the industrial low slope work, and we dealt specifically with like the on-site facility managers, a lot of building managers, a lot of operations managers. And I don't have a ton of experience in this world. So if you're cool, I'll let you kind of like fly the plane here for a minute. And
sure. So you dealt with more of like the bottom part of the pyramid in an organizational chart when it comes to commercial property management.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly how I would describe it.
So let's go like one layer above that, right? So one layer above that would be, more of the regional manager and then the ownership of that management company itself, and kind of the behind the scenes conversations, because I've been in these meetings with them when they're sitting down either monthly or quarterly with the actual owner or ownership group that owns these buildings, and what do they talk about and what are they planning. So each building that's purchased starts off with some sort of a business plan. And most of these owners that I've dealt with, owners and ownership groups buying large multifamily communities or large commercial plazas or business parks, they have the end goal in mind prior to buying it, right? So before they even buy it, they have a business plan in place. And a lot of that is determined based on the cap rate before they even buy that building of what is the potential. But in my opinion, from talking to so many guys that own buildings, there's really only two types of owners. And these owners are either guys that are looking at building an equity play in a building, right? So keeping it maintained so that the valuation continues to rise so that they can create an exit, or they're looking at cash flow. And they're normally not one and the same. So the guys, forgive me for being so blunt, the guys that are purely focused on cash flow tend to be more of the slumlord type mindset.
Totally.
They care about what is my bottom line, and they don't care about really the deferred maintenance. They'll do deferred maintenance, but reluctantly. They're the ones that are constantly grinding you down on price, or is there a better way to do this? Is there a more economical way to do this? Versus understanding you get what you pay for when you're investing into your building. The other type of owner, which we're fishing for, is the guy who's really concerned on the equity play. So they bought it for 10 million. Their goal is to essentially every year, with property management fees, deferred maintenance, taxes, insurance, to break zero at the end of the year, right? To break even, pay no money to the government, have no income coming in. But because that property continues to grow in desirability in the community, it's going to continue to rise in value.
That's really interesting. So I got into real estate myself as the roofing company started to make money, and I needed to figure out how to allocate that money to not pay as much in taxes and so on and so forth. I hired some people to show me some things. And one of the coolest things that I remember, like one of the big mental breakthroughs that I had when I started purchasing, I bought a commercial building that we ended up moving our office to. I bought an apartment complex. I bought some smaller multifamily units. And the person or the people that I was following and learning from, basically, I was like looking at every deal kind of from like type A, the guy you described first, from a cash flow perspective. I'm like, oh man, why would I buy this place if I can only make $800 a month on it? But then like the mental breakthrough that I had was like, oh, it's not necessarily that I'm just what I'm making on a month by month basis or even annually. It's like, if I hold this thing for 10 years and I even break even, then I will get that equity play. I will be able to like get the gradual inflation or the gradual increase in value of the building just through time allotment. And so I don't know, it like the saying that was told to me is like, it's kind of relative to like the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is today. It's like the best time to buy real estate was 20 years ago. The next best time is today, because it's only going to appreciate in value. So is that kind of the thought process that we should be, that we should understand these guys are looking at or looking through?
100%. And we try as we grow up to not judge a book by its cover. But 100% in real estate, and when it comes to commercial roofing, we can judge a book by its cover. And so it's really important to understand that when you go into a property as a sales guy, as a business owner, what is your objective and how do you want to grow your own company? Do you want to work with guys that are really serious about maintaining their facility? Or do you want to work with guys that are just purely reactive and are going to call you when they have a leak and you're going to come and fix it and just keep kicking that can down the curb for them until inevitably they have to put a new roof on?
Yeah. And I think the answer there is obvious. Like, I think that we know where most of us as roofing company owners would probably lean towards. But I do think that there's probably a handful of people watching this, Kevin, today, because number one, I've talked to a lot of guys that are coming to this today and their experience. Like, for instance, I took a call with a gentleman yesterday out of Texas, and he's like, hey, I'm coming to your call tomorrow. But my experience has been that property managers just want the lowest bid, or the property managers I've dealt with are cheap asses, or whatever the case might be. That's their experience in it. And they might not know that this secondary type of avatar or identity of a property manager exists.
100%. And I would respond to them and say, you got to stop fishing for carp and you got to start fishing for things that you want to enjoy eating, right? Because if people just show up to the lake or to the river and just fish, and they just put a lure in with no intention throughout the day of what they want to catch, or what do they want to eat, or what do you want to farm? Like we talked about our method from hunting to farming. But when it comes to soil and you're going to farm, the land does not care if you put a poisonous plant in the ground or if you put a beautiful fruit tree. The land doesn't care. It's going to produce both of them equally just as well. It can produce poisonous plants and you could just constantly be fighting that land, or you can work with the land and have amazing abundance. Either way, you need to take care of the land. You need to water it. It needs the proper sunlight. But a lot of guys that I've talked to, they're constantly not understanding what the objective for them is. They say, I want more maintenance agreements. I want to sign more guys up on MSAs. I want to do more T&M jobs. I want more coatings. I want more re-roofs. Well, that's great, but what's the plan to actually be able to facilitate that? And then when you have the perfect client in front of you, are you actually ready to serve them? Because there's a lot of guys ready to do the work and give them a bid, but these managers are extremely knowledgeable and they're very intuitive. And if you're not at that level with what differentiates your company from all of the other service providers that they've worked with in the past, you have less than 30 seconds to impress them. No different than presenting a lure in front of that bass. I mean, they know it's fake, or hey, that looks real enough. Let me go bite it, right? It's all instinctual.
I think that's another reason that like a lot of guys that are maybe operating in, so from like a roofer's perspective, if I'm already doing roofing, I'm like, okay, cool. I see I'm doing asphalt projects over here on these houses, and maybe even like bit larger houses or more luxurious houses. So they have this mindset where they can say, okay, well, if I can do asphalt shingle, a 60 square asphalt shingle job, I could probably do a 600 square. So let's go talk to these people. But you're saying that when typically like when these residential roofers that don't understand how the game works or how the property managers work, they're walking into these offices and essentially that the property managers can smell that from a mile away. They understand. Okay.
Yeah, 100%. The roofer is showing up with the pure intention of large cash grabs. It's like if you worked at a bank, you see enough people coming in every day to know when somebody's presenting you with the wrong opportunity, or you feel like they're going to rob you, or it's a fake check that they're cashing. These management companies, commercial, industrial, or multifamily, you have about 41 trades on multifamily. You have about 23 trades on commercial, industrial to really maintain that property on an annual basis. So the more prevalent a management company is, I mean, let's think about this. If you're dealing with a type A manager, property manager, right? She knows her stuff. He knows his stuff. What is the likelihood that everybody's going to want to work with them?
Probably high.
Really high. So think about this. You got 23 trades. And how many of those tradesmen in your coverage area are reaching out to that manager monthly or quarterly trying to get in the door?
Right. So, well, even if on the low end, even if they had 2 to 3 roofers and 2 to 3 electricians and 2 to 3 paving and concrete companies and like, so that how many, I can't remember the exact.
You're talking 69 companies.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a lot of people to reach out to on top of all of the other stuff that they're doing outside of just managing the trades, like all the stuff they're dealing with people in the community and so on and so forth with all their other duties, right?
Yeah, these managers wear 5 main hats every day. And the last one that they're focused on is the commercial hat.
Yeah.
And it's our job to really be able to differentiate not only from what we want selfishly and personally as a company. And I think a lot of companies just forget that they're in the service business. And a lot of people that I talk to completely forget about providing an experience to their clients.
I was about to say, like, they forget that they're in the service business, but like also at the root of that, like the root of the word service is like, we have to serve these people anyway. So it's like, how do we do that? And so I feel like we've done a really good job, or you've done a really good job at talking about like, what is the problem? Like, what is the battle we're up against as a roofer? But in your opinion, like, how can we stair step into like, how do we not do the things we just described? Like, how can we get better as a roofing company? Like, what are the things that we can do to make a property manager want to work with us or to start to navigate down that path?
A lot of it stems from the company's culture. Is the company's culture purely driven on profitability only? Because in my opinion, if we take care of our salesmen and our project managers and guys who are running QC, they're going to take care of our clients as owners. And so a lot of, my efforts have always been put into backing up my sales team. But at the same time, too, your goals as an owner have to coincide with the goals of the team that you're working with.
So I'm confused. You actually pay your sales reps commissions? You don't just start those guys?
A salary and commission. Yeah. Oh yeah.
No, that's cool, man. No, I'm picking up what you're down. So it's like, take care of our people so that they're happy at work. The culture's high within the company. In lieu of the culture being high, it'll then you're thinking that then drives a higher performance.
100. Everybody learns roofing in this business, right? So if you're purely a low slope guy, you're learning all the different types of installation methodology of materials. You're learning all the mechanical on a roof, all the MEP, right? So your mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and how to solve waterproofing issues on the rooftop. But where people forget is that the service comes in from actually being able to educate these managers, because the managers at the end of the day, they are the decision maker that we get to talk to.
Okay.
And they, depending on the threshold that they are able to approve based on what the owner has set out, we need to be able to find what that threshold limit of the on-site manager or the facility engineer or maintenance guy has in place. And if not, then we need to tweak the way that we communicate to make him an advocate or a raving fan of who we are, so that he can go to the appropriate party and sell it for us. And a lot of guys that we talk to, they say, well, I'm not talking to the actual decision maker.
Entirely. Yep. I was
entirely.
Yep.
And they want to sell the decision maker. Well, they sell.
Sorry, are you saying that's not necessary though? Okay, cool.
Never in commercial, ever. Because they have put, let's say the owner of a shopping center, he's a doctor, he's a lawyer, he's a pilot, whatever he is, some sort of other profession, a trust fund baby, he owns this property. Right. The reason that management company is in place in the first and foremost is as a barrier to him, a buffer. He wants to be able to live his life. She wants to live her life outside of the investment. And if every flooring guy and glazing guy and painting guy, epoxy injection, roofing, I mean, if every single person bypassed the property management company and went to Reonomy or any of these other data scraping services to get the owner's information, they're so frustrated. They're like, why are you calling me? Why are you reaching out to me? And we say, well, because the manager's not doing her job. Well, 100% she is. We just haven't learned how to actually communicate and educate her for her to become an advocate of our, not only company, but our proposal and what we're trying to accomplish for their benefit.
Man, I love this idea. I'm like the epitome of what you're describing. I've literally always, like, even on our personal sales teams, like we use Prospect Now, Reonomy, CoStar, all of these things so that we could then get to the building owner or decision maker. And then, like, thinking back, we've been redirected from, if we made contact with them, like, oh, hey, could you deal with our property manager, rather than thinking like, why don't I go in through the front door where it's unlocked, and
100%.
So, okay, cool. That's interesting. So
it brings up the next point, because I was actually talking to a guy yesterday and he was a little frustrated on the process. And I said, I totally understand. And a lot of these roofers are trying to just pound a round peg into a square hole.
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to force a relationship, and they're trying to force a proposal onto something. You have kids, right?
Yeah, totally. 3.
So how old were your kids when you put that little wooden set in front of them with the round piece, with the round hole in the triangle, with the triangle piece? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, entirely.
How old were you when they did that? Like, how old were the kids?
Yeah, I mean, super young. Like, probably
6, 7, 8, 9 months, right?
Exactly.
Like, it's one of like the very first things we learn.
Yep.
But as adults, we forget that the round hole takes the round peg, right?
not the triangle peg or the square
Yeah.
peg.
And as sales guys, a lot of us, we carry sledgehammers with us all day long.
Yep.
And we're like, I'm going to make this fit. And I can't tell you how many guys show up to a multifamily community or to a commercial shopping center, and there's one leak on 1,000 square. And they're like, oh, it needs a whole new roof.
Yeah.
What?
Exactly.
Why? Yeah. Why? Or the people that show up and they're like, the roof's ugly. Man, the roof is so ugly, it needs a new roof. There's no leaks. There's no leaks. The roof is talking to you as a sales guy saying, hello, I might not look the best, but I perform when I need to perform.
Yeah.
Right. And as sales guys, we have to understand what the roof is saying to us. And I think that a lot of us are not one with nature. A lot of us don't become one with the roof. And, you know, if the roof could speak to you, which it does, and you could actually listen, how much easier would it be to educate the manager on the reserve study and CapEx and just make sure that they're doing their fiduciary responsibility of allocating funds for you when the time is right. And I think a lot of us get pressured by having the lack of a pipeline. We get pressured because I only have 3 leads. I got to make one of them work.
That's right.
If you had 30,000 open proposals, how many of them are just going to organically come in?
So you said something just a second ago. I just want to pause you if I could just for 1 minute. So last time when we did our training for all of the private clients of the Commercial Roofer University, I got a little bit of feedback where they were asking questions afterwards. They were saying, hey, what is CapEx and what are reserve studies? And so you just mentioned those things again. And so I'm sure that, you know, some people here on this call are maybe unfamiliar with that. And so you said, instead of trying to go in and throw the Hail Mary for the touchdown rather than going for the first down, you know, why are we not leveraging a reserve study or, you know, understanding what their CapEx budget looks like? Could you just maybe explain what that reserve study is and what it does for the property manager and then what CapEx is?
Absolutely. So a reserve study on the roof is going to really break down what is the roofing system that's there. Mm-hmm. So is it 60 mil TPO over ISO? Is it fully tapered? And then what is the useful life left to that roof? If you're in 100% retail environment like LA or Seattle, where there's no real insurance claims, so to speak of, versus, you know, Dallas or Miami.
Well, LA, I know you guys have bullets coming through the roofs out there. So
yeah, but that's not prematurely going to disintegrate the roof system. And we could fix a 9 mil pretty quick, right? Just some. But yeah, that's so,
dude, not to derail us, but I just have one little tangent story. So I did have 400 squares bought because of bullet holes one time. And it was, I mean, there were bullet holes all over this roof. It was on a certain side of town in Indianapolis, and the water had gotten in and literally saturated like just essentially majority of the insulation. And it was all it was all just like the plastic backed bat insulation, like blanket insulation. And so I said that jokingly, but in all seriousness, like we've gotten a roof bought from that before. So I thought I'd share that just because it's such a weird deal.
Man. Better than me. I just go over them.
It wasn't me, dude. Trust me. I'm not the insurance guy by any means, but we had a good public adjuster. So anyways, back to what you were saying. So understanding what the roof system is, what's there on the building currently, and
then the useful life if a storm wasn't to hit, right? If just great current conditions remained. So with that useful life, we're able to really break down. So let's say it's 1,000 squares, even round numbers. Mm-hmm. What is today's valuation for you to replace that roof? What is the current inflation of construction looking like? And right now it's running about 7.5% of what I see, year over year. The hiccup was COVID, but I think we're getting a little bit more stable now after these 2.5 years of wackiness. But if you go back 20 years and look at it statistically, construction tends to be about 7.5%. So now
like you get 7% COVID year, 70%, 7%, 7%.
Yeah, exactly. But we can now work with these managers and educate them on how to really amortize the current roof system they have in place. And so if you have 1,000 squares and you're pricing your maintenance more per year than what it would cost them to save money towards putting a new roof on, why would they do maintenance?
Yeah, wouldn't make sense.
It makes no sense. But if your maintenance is 10 to 15, maybe 20% of the amortized value of a roof replacement, they can see that working in their benefit, because now you can extend the life of the roof through these proactive measures. But math is math. So when you're actually breaking down a property and you say, okay, this thing's got maybe 5 more years of life, we ask them, hey, how much have you allocated in your reserves for a new roof? And they say, we really haven't started, right? Because we don't know how much life is left to the roof. We just know that we don't have any leaks. And because most of these roofs are out of sight and out of mind, or most of them take laddering up to actually walk and evaluate, they forget the fact that we need to do this on an annual basis, because not all roofs age at the same rate. Some roofs age at an accelerated rate, and sometimes it takes you 3 or 4 years in a row to see how that roof is aging, based on foot traffic, based on equipment, based on, maybe it's right by a freeway, and just the emissions from the freeway are breaking down that material at an accelerated rate.
So yeah, just depending on geographically where it's at, what its surroundings are, what does the traffic look like? Is it steep? Is it steeper and shedding water quicker, or is it lower slope and holding water? Like there's basically a ton of things that could factor into, is what you're saying.
Lots of factors. But if we're educating these managers on, hey, I'm going to show up, walk your roof, and here's what you're going to get at the end of that job walk.
Which is the reserve study, correct? That's what you're talking about, is the reserve study.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So I'm going to provide to you a report on what kind of material you have, how many squares you have, what the current replacement cost is today, and can I extend the life of this roof through proactive measures? And in my professional opinion, how far out can I extend this? Because it's purely math, 100%. So if you draw out on a graph what the replacement value is and how much it goes up year over year, 7.5% over a year, and you can flatline that building with your maintenance, the investors go, this makes sense.
Yeah.
We need to invest into Cody. We need to invest into Kevin's roof and have their team just handle that. And you're going to remove the roofing headache off the plate. And you're going to also remove yourself from being the roofer to being the businessman in the roofing industry that can speak with investors.
The trusted advisor, the trusted consultant.
100%. But you're not charging for this consulting.
Yep.
You're earning this trust. You're earning this business through them, which, really brings up like top of mind awareness with these investors. And if you can imagine, I don't know if you play golf or gone to a country club or, gone to a polo club.
Yeah, dude, I'm like the country club's worst nightmare, but
well, a lot of these building owners, right? They're networking with other building owners, even if it's not on purpose, right? Even if it's not in an investor networking event, they're going to the Four Seasons they're hanging out with other multi-millionaires or billionaires
Yeah.
at these places. They're flying private. They're at polo clubs. They go to racetracks. They go to golf events, and they're the ones that are renting these tents. Well, if you look at these tents or environments at these facilities, you rarely see one dude sitting by himself ever. They're always talking and communicating and networking with each other. And if you can actually build the relationship where you go from just top of mind awareness of that investor using you to now you can go to top of mind awareness and use him as a networking tool. And he starts telling all of your other friends, I met this roofer. I can't believe he's actually in the roofing business because he's actually helping me save hundreds of thousands of dollars on my building. And they're like, how? He's doing it by being proactive. He's doing it by actually working within the constraints of my business plan for the building. If that makes sense.
Oh, it makes perfect sense. And it's funny you say that. I just had lunch 2 weeks ago, week and a half, a couple weeks back with a sales rep that he was one of the first sales reps I ever had within my roofing company. He's since the acquisition, he's transitioned over to another company here locally in the Indiana market. And one of his biggest plays is he joined a country club. And so he just not only is he working for those guys and with those guys, but he's also rubbing shoulders with them all the time. So I know that wasn't the point, but I think that's it's notable, obviously.
I mean, how many deals are done on the golf course? Do you know why deals are done on the golf course?
No, tell me.
Because during a game of golf, you're really playing against yourself, right? At the end of the day, your score that you play is what matters most. Mm-hmm. And a true businessman over 18 holes, typically 2.5 to 4 hours, depending on the club,
sure,
can really see the type of individual that you are.
Interesting.
Do you cheat? Do you move that ball? Like, even if it's just a half an inch from what we call like a divot, right? Like a indentation in the ground, do you move it to the flat surface? Or do you play it as it lies? Are you the guy that's 2.5 feet from the hole and you're like, oh, that's a gimme, right? Pick up my ball. Are you that guy? Right?
Dude, interesting. I love that. Okay, cool. That's way deeper than I thought you were going. So that's cool.
Way, way deeper. So they get to evaluate how frustrated that you get at a little white ball with no feeling in the middle of a beautiful park, right? Because most golf courses are just this perfectly maintained park.
Yeah.
And you're taking a stroll for 4 hours through this park and you're frustrated? What?
Screaming
How
at this
is that even possible?
Yeah, 100%.
And so these businessmen that have real money, they get to see who you are in this environment with no betting, no gambling, nothing on the line. And they determine if you're the type of person that they want to spend more time with. Because to them, it's not about the money. They do business with people they know, like, and trust, but they got to know you and they got to like you before they even give you the chance to trust you. It's not the other way around.
Yep. I love that. Cool. No, that's solid.
So that, I mean, I've played golf in my past and it is really difficult to watch a deal just crumble on the first hole. All because of how that sales guy pulled out his driver, knowing that he was going to hit it out of bounds. He wanted to let the big dog eat. He wanted to show off. And these guys don't give a shit. They don't care at all.
Yep.
Just get it in the fairway. Even if that means that you got to pull out your putter to get it off the tee box, get it down the middle, right? And
yeah, well, like you said, it's a game of like playing against yourself. And I can't remember. I'm definitely not the most experienced golfer, probably on this call, but it's like for the 20 or 30 games of golf that I played over the last few years, it's like never remember how anyone else played except for myself. And it's the exact same way for everyone else, right? And everyone's thinking about themselves and the shots they're trying to hit, and so it's like, nobody.
If you're trying to do a deal with them, Cody, if you're trying to do a $5 million deal with them, and then all you remember is them breaking their 9-iron on the 14th hole because they shanked it.
That's right. I mean, like out of like tip, if you just like without doing anything drastic like that, nobody's going to remember if you're like Tiger Woods or, whatever.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares, right? It's all about like you as a human, which is like, that was a really cool analogy. I appreciate you sharing that. And so to bring us back to the reserve study, so I think you did a really good job explaining what the reserve study is. What is CapEx and how does that play into the reserve study? So that's, I'll let you do it, and I'll chime in.
So there's certain trades that fall under CapEx, which is capital expenditures.
Okay.
And a lot of these trades are things that need minimal amount of maintenance to keep them going, but they have a point of diminishing return where it just doesn't make sense to continue to patch it or repair it or maintain it, and it goes into an investment portion of their spreadsheet. And that CapEx falls under roofing. A lot of it falls painting, glazing, like windows, depending on if they have epoxy injection, if they have, different flooring, like carpet. There's maintenance that you can do to carpet, right? You're cleaning, you're vacuuming. At a certain point, you're seeing a literal path of travel. And if you're a high-end office building, do you just keep trying to scrub out that path of travel? No, I mean, it's got to be replaced. If you're getting $25,000 a month rent for a single office building in a mid-rise, right? These guys walking into that building expect you to replace that carpet regularly. They don't expect you to just keep cleaning it and trying to patch it. And so these types of goods in a building that break down fall under CapEx. And so it's really important for us to make sure that the manager on her line item of roofing even has the correct number. Because what we run into a lot of the times is our competition gave them a number that is so far below what it actually takes to put on the right roof. Typically, we're running into maybe the first roof or possibly the second roof of that building as contractors.
Got it.
Right? Especially if the building's 14, 15 years old. That roof was drafted in an office from an architect that just theoretically was like, hey, this is going to be the best roofing system possible. Well, they don't have the time-tested knowledge to know of the expansion and contraction rate of that building, right? Just because it's a tilt-up building with a panelized roof system does not mean that every tilt-up with every panelized roof system in every zip code that they cover is going to expand and contract at the same rate.
Yep. And ultimately, the roof's not going to wear the same way because of all the things we listed out earlier, right? All the other factors that can play into it.
And as a contractor that's focused on maintenance and preservation, when it comes time to the new roof, how much easier is your job to be able to educate them and say, the architect didn't just nail this. Let's put on the best roof, and here's why. This roof system is going to expand and contract properly with this building, or we need to create a wider path of travel for walk pads because of, your current service providers on the mechanical are not as careful with setting their tools down. Yeah, right.
That was a nice way of saying it. Yeah.
So on the service side of our 5-ton, downshot units, hey, instead of putting 2 walk pads here, why don't we put 8? Right? So that we could be a little bit more protected when they're laying their drills down or putting their tools down, or, hey, these guys completely forgot to take out a nail in the bottom of their boot before walking up onto your roof.
Yeah, exactly. So, Kevin, real quick. So, to kind of recap everything that we've covered so far, just because I feel like it's a little bit widespread.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's great information, dude. I greatly appreciate this. This has been amazingly insightful, even for me. So, basically, what we've said is like we don't necessarily have to always find the decision maker. We can go through the front door that's unlocked. We can, start by creating this relationship with the property manager. You said a few tools that we can leverage to start that relationship, or to kind of start our relationship off with a helping hand, is by understanding, or, offering that reserve study, and then also understanding where their CapEx is. Where do we go from there? So we go out, we do our inspection, we put together that reserve study. What's next?
Well, from there, when we have a pipeline, we need to understand that not everything is going to close in 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So a lot of sales, I think, are lost due to a lack of patience.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree.
Because they're so concerned with their monthly number or their quarterly number or their annual number. And some owners put these unrealistic expectations on a brand new company to hit goals that are just almost impossible to hit. And I feel really bad for these sales guys, but when it comes down to it, you have to learn how to hunt. Mm-hmm. And so if you're hunting for the wrong type of project, again, judging that book by its cover, Cody, right? If you show up to a place that the plants are overgrown, the grass isn't perfectly maintained, there's algae in the front waterfalls, the paint looks tired, you see dry rot on the siding, what do you think the likelihood that they're going to sign a repair proposal for you at the valuation that you want?
Minimal.
Why are you hunting there? Again, goes back to the round peg, square hole. Like,
yeah,
find the easier path by finding the building that's already maintained. How much easier is it to look at a place that's already maintained and keep it maintained?
Way less work. And what's funny though, Kevin, is speaking from experience, like I'm kind of like transparently speaking to this as like my own thoughts and understanding of this. In the past, I've directed our business developers and our sales reps in history's past that a multifamily property is a multifamily property is a multifamily property, and not differentiating between the two of a class A property versus a class C B. minus property, and
or a D.
Exactly.
The D for us is deleted out of your system, right? Just don't ever go back.
Yeah, it stands for exactly what you think it does. So, all right, that makes sense. Okay, cool. So
if it starts there with really fishing for the wrong opportunity, hunting for the wrong opportunity, and again, you're just trying to force that sale, it's going to be really, really difficult. Really difficult. So I think part of it comes down to identifying what you want first. And I think that every sales guy should have a list of non-negotiables.
Okay. What would those look like?
Well, if you're dating, it could be, I don't like somebody that smokes. I would never marry somebody that smokes. That would be like a non-negotiable for me, right? Uh-huh. And on a property manager, non-negotiables come down to the point if they're not divulging information. So, but this is a give or take situation. So who's going to give first in this environment? Typically us as advisors, us as consultants, or us as sales guys give first. But think about when you were dating your wife, brand new relationship, you guys just met, however you met, we haven't talked about that. And let's say you went out for coffee, right? Just this really easygoing first date, nothing serious. If the conversation isn't flowing back and forth, what's the likelihood you go on a second date?
Pretty low.
Pretty low, unless she's just smoking hot, right?
Yeah.
And then you'll try it again. Okay, maybe it was the nerves or whatever. You go on the second date and she's just this cold wall. Are you really going to try and go on a third date?
I guess it depends what happens after the second date, but
most likely
not.
no.
Yeah.
But this is what happens with sales guys, right? Is they get blinded by the amount on the bid. They get blinded by this shiny object of, man, this is a $5 million roof replacement. But the conversation with a manager goes nothing like that they thought of or dreamed of or wanted. Mm-hmm. So they need to find, you don't need a lot of customers in this business to be super, super successful. You don't need a lot, you know? So if you're focusing on hundreds of relationships and you don't have the ability to filter through, to be able to identify who's the person that you want to work with and are they a good match with you? Just because you want to work with them doesn't mean that they want to work with you. And so you need to go to enough properties, you need to bid enough jobs to be able to identify what your target client even is. What is that avatar? Like we talk about client avatars regularly.
Yeah.
I know my exact client. You know your exact client. Most of these guys in the field know the type of building they want,
but not the ideal client.
Correct. The building is insignificant because the client, as they become more mature and they grow, they're going to take you with them in their career. They'll literally leave a C- management company and go to a B. And if they love you, they're going to bring you with them. And all of a sudden,
Sorry, go ahead. No, you finish. Please finish your thought.
You just went into a completely different category of portfolio.
Yes. I was just going to chime in because you talked about that on the last call that we did in our private setting. And you talked about how there's there's a lower barrier to entry to these lower end properties. And you just alluded to it a little bit, but would you just explain just maybe rather quickly about how it works for property managers as they graduate up and what happens in their careers with them to just kind of elaborate on what you just said?
Yeah. So you have what I would consider to be professional property managers. And then you have the ones that are literally just there for a job, right? They're stuck. So let's just not even worry about the ones that are just there for a job. Like it's their version of working at Subway. Let's work with the professional property managers. They have different continuing educational courses that they can go to, that they can actually get certifications and, the titles behind their name, similar to a doctor, right? Their designation and their recognition. There's really a few different things that property managers focus on. The first one is real estate. And so there's a few different organizations that really focus on educating them on how to, throughout day by day, raise the valuation of a property through their daily efforts, right? We talk about, I shared with you, I'm not happy with my weight, right? And you're like, well, if you just try and eat good for one day, it's not going to work. But if you add working out and eating healthy day after day after day after day, then you'll get the desired look you want. Well, these managers, every day they can log into these courses and build up their resume. And as their resume becomes more desirable, these higher end facilities, these higher end properties, they seek out through them with job hunting, right? So they have headhunters specifically for property managers, just like every other headhunting niche out there. But as they grow in knowledge, they're going to bring the team with them. It's kind of like the tide that rises all boats.
Yep.
Well, if you got a hole in your boat and the tide comes in, you're going to sink, right? If you're the mechanical guy that can't work at a B level property and she improves, she's going to recognize that immediately that you just don't fit in with the other mechanical guys that are there.
Love it. Yeah, and so I see the same thing happening in the GC world, right? So you have project managers bounce from GC to GC, exact same situation. So I've experienced that firsthand. So
in GC world, how many TI guys try to go Newcon? How many Newcon guys try to go TI? Right? They look at it as like this easy overlap. Well, TI, you're dealing with an existing roofing system that's in place, and let's say they're putting in a new 7-ton downshot. Your goal is to really tie those roofs in.
Yes. Yep.
Right. And you need to be able to properly evaluate the existing system and whether you need to do pull tests or what you need to do to ensure before doing that project that it was spec'd out properly. And if not, then you need to either do an RFI or value engineer that project to make sure that you can stand behind your work.
Dude, entirely. 100%. Yeah, 100%. And for those of you guys that don't know what TI is, it stands for tenant improvement. And so we have a lot of guys, Kevin, that are newer to the commercial world. So tenant improvement versus working for general contractors doing like new construction.
So TI is really, you have an existing building and maybe you're either adding on or you're adding equipment or subtracting equipment.
Yes.
Or you're repurposing the building. Maybe it was a museum and now it's going to be a paint booth, right? And they say, take this shell and they build it out for their particular need.
To basically improve the structure or improve the use of the facility for the new tenant.
And TI guys that truly understand TI just crush it with MSAs. I mean, they crush it because they understand how to really break down the components of the existing roof. And they also are able to show up and say, hey, why are we tying in a new exhaust fan on a 25-year-old TPO system that's completely broken down and you can see the scrim everywhere? And then now it comes into that educational process because the architect, when drawing up plans, they rarely ladder up. Rarely. Yeah. They just draw in what needs to be done. Here you go. Right. And the GC went on Dodge report and just bid it. Right.
Yes, exactly.
So, and then it's our responsibility to make sure it's watertight. So that's on this side of the things, those TI guys really, really crush it.
Kevin, what I was going to say is we've got about 15 minutes left. So what I'd like to do is, I think there was on the bulleted list that you sent over to me, there were a couple acronyms at the bottom that you wanted to touch on. But then ultimately what I'd like to do for everybody that is watching this or watching the replay is I would like to just ask you at the very end, how could, if I'm a roofing company watching this today, how could I, after you share this other acronym with us, how could I take everything that you shared with us today and what's the first step? What's the first action that I need to take and just give them everything they need to basically get rocking and rolling today?
Okay, cool. Well, let me try to do that in 15 minutes. So I sent you two acronyms. One is TOMA, which is TOMA, which is top of mind awareness.
Fair enough. What does that mean exactly?
So when either a property manager or an investor or regional manager, when they think of roofing, do they think of you? Do they even consider you? And our team will actually email property managers from different inboxes asking for references of roofing companies to a property manager that my client is trying to build a relationship with. Yeah. And if your name's not on that list, then you obviously have not nurtured that relationship for them to consider you and refer you out.
Interesting. So you're going undercover, basically playing undercover detective to try and figure out if you're top of mind, if you have top of mind awareness for these property management companies.
Exactly. So the next acronym is TOMATO, which is TOMATO. T-O. So TOMA, but through others. So top of mind awareness through others. So really what that comes down to is a property manager sitting, eating dinner. Nobody knows she's a property manager. And you overhear somebody said the word roof, and she turns around and she's like, gotta call Kevin, right? Or you're at the water station and you hear another person say something to the effect of roof, are you working with Kevin, right? That's top of mind awareness through others. They really become an advocate and they're networking on your behalf with no expectation of anything in return. If that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah, I totally understand it. How do you get that top of mind awareness? Is it through what you just explained to us over the last 30 minutes of taking those steps to nurture those relationships? Is that the ultimate goal?
A lot of the time I simply just ask them. I'll ask them straight up, hey, if somebody was going to ask you for a referral to a roofer, have I done enough to earn that referral with you?
Interesting.
If your roof was to leak, did I do a good enough job for me to be the first person that you think of in a time of need? Right? And so we have to then, once we understand if that manager does think of us first, some may lie to you, but we get pretty good at seeing the tone or looking in their eyes. And if they're hesitating, they're just trying to be nice to you, right? Then we have to backtrack on what does our nurturing process even look like? I see a lot of nurturing processes with roofers that they say, me. I do this. I do that. I have this designation. I'm certified here. I've been in this business. I do this many dollars in business. I have this many crews. I have only in-house crews, whatever it is. And that's more marketing than nurturing, in my opinion.
Okay. What do you see? What do you see as nurturing more so?
Somebody that's able to actually take an infancy stage relationship and add the value and education for that person to grow up. As parents, our role is really to mentor our children, right? Yes, we still need to be dad. Yes, we still need to be mom. But at the end of the day, our goal is to mentor them and to make them into amazing little humans as the best we possibly can. And nurturing these relationships is no different. So the first thing is not assuming that they're already roofing experts. And a lot of people, they'll show up and they'll just start spewing all this phraseology, terminology, methodology without understanding that they, as a manager, have never replaced a roof. They've actually never dealt with a roofing issue, and this is their very first time. And so we have to change the way that we're talking to an adult to more of a child. And if your 2-year-old or 3-year-old understands that, you can layer on top of it with them.
There's a theory called the 5 levels of awareness. I think it was written by a guy named, I'm going to probably butcher this, maybe Gene Schwartz or something like that. But nonetheless, this theory of 5 levels of awareness essentially says that what you just described, Kevin, to where there's people that, there's property managers in this case, that have never dealt with a roofing, the person you just described, never dealt with a roofing situation, never repaired a roof, don't even know like what kind of roof is on the building because maybe they are in the infancy stage. Maybe they're within the first 90 days of even having that job, on up to, those 5 levels of awareness, increasingly more to the guy that's been in property management for 30 years, or the girl that's been in property management for 30 years, who's done a plethora of roofing projects, and learning how to ask the theory basically says you should be able to ask the questions to identify somebody's awareness level, and then have marketing and word tracks that speak to every single awareness level, if that makes sense.
100%. Absolutely. And again, this is that square peg, round hole. How many guys just show up and they're like, I'm going to beat this TPO knowledge into you, right? right?
Yep,
No
exactly.
TPO, PVC. And they don't even understand the designation difference between the two systems.
Yep.
How many sales guys you work with right now, Cody, that can tell you what TPO stands for versus what PVC actually stands for?
Even less that can pronounce it correctly, but yeah, not very many.
How many of them understand molecularly what's going on with the membranes besides what Carlisle educated them or what Firestone educated them are?
Zero. Not one. And we have, I mean, right now we have 100. I looked at our community last night and it kind of blew my mind. We have 160 people in our client community right now. And yeah, I would say absolutely zero. And
So
if somebody,
how do they expect to really win? So until they start taking this seriously, as instead of it being a job, they take it as a true profession, right? You have your like general practitioner doctors. They can kind of like just handle whatever. But who makes the real money as a doctor? The GPs or like the neurosurgeon?
The neurosurgeon, exactly. I was just about to say
Way more, way more. But if you can become a neurosurgeon with MSAs and reserve studies and CapEx, like how you won't even need to market, people will seek you out.
So, Kevin, the way I look at this is to what you just said. You can become the specialist, and I look at it the same way that you can self-perform work, or you can outsource, work to a subcontractor, or you can generate leads in-house, or you can outsource to a marketing agency.
Yep.
If somebody's interested in starting to learn these things and to become that master, I look at it in the same way that they can either do that in-house, or I know in your newest venture, you literally do that in a hands-on approach for people. Like you are partnering with roofing companies, correct? Do you mind talking to that a little bit? Because I want to talk to people, like this is what I was wanting to get into, is like, how can people take the next step in either doing this themselves or hiring somebody like you to help them build this out?
Yeah. So our company can do everything from just generating appointments with you to full cradle to grave account management and coaching, really guiding you through the process of what you need to do to be able to win at a very high level. So it's more than just generating leads on the account management side, right? It's really breaking down a list of the opportunities in that coverage area and understanding who's our A clients, who's our B clients, who's our C clients, where should we be investing our time, who should we be meeting with, at what duration should we be meeting with them. And obviously the type of communication is going to be different for a C client to a B client to an A client. And that's really what we help with.
Okay. Really cool. And if, and just so everyone knows, I know you plan on giving some things away here. The package that we gave away to our old clients, I'm going to put those here in the comments section below so people can get those downloads. Will you just walk through the couple documents on what they're going to have and how they could take those and utilize those on their own? And then secondly, if you don't mind, just how can people get in touch with you if they decide this isn't a project they want to take on their own?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you guys a couple examples of reserve studies at a free level. These are not paid reserve studies. These are the get your foot in the door and kind of show them what you're capable of. And a lot of the times these free reserve studies just blow these managers out of the water, right? Because they've never received anything like this. And then
I thought they were good. When you sent them over to me, I was I was personally impressed. I'm like, oh, this is sweet. I can't believe that you're going out and doing this for free.
It took me like 5 minutes to put that together.
Oh, interesting. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So when you get really good at them, it's just math. That's all it is, right? So it's just formulas and math, and away it goes. And then I sent you an MSA that I used at a really rudimentary level, not like the full portfolio MSA, but more of that on-site kind of going from the coffee date to, hey, we don't want to see anybody else. right? You've already done 3 or 4 or 5 dates. You know you like each other, and that's when that MSA comes out to kind of lock that relationship in place.
Awesome. And for everyone that's watching, just to be clear, an MSA is a master service agreement, which is just an agreement with that you can give to the property management firm or the property, correct?
And we're also in the final editing stages for anybody that wants to generate leads on their own from their truck. We're going to be, I filmed this kind of little mini series of how to generate leads while you're on an appointment already. And if you have like an hour or 2 spare time in between your appointments and you want to generate multifamily or commercial property management leads on your own, we're going to be giving it away. We're not charging a dime. So when it's fully edited, I was hoping it'd be done today, probably another day or 2, but it's going to have like how to handle objections when you're talking to managers. It's going to actually show you how to get vendor packets. It's going to walk you through literally step by step of what you need to do to generate your own appointments without me.
So generous, dude. That's so nice of you guys. And I think that's going to be really powerful. If Kevin, I know you're really, you don't like putting yourself out there like this, but I just over the past month that I've known you, I've learned so much from you personally. My community has learned so much from you. And I hope everyone that was able to, tune into this today learned just as much as, and feel like you're as valuable as I have. If people do want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that? Where can they find you?
Send me a pigeon with a note, smoke signal. My cell phone, I give you my cell phone number or email, 405-833-0946. My email, kevin@wolfpack.construction.
Make sure we only call him after midnight. And dude, thank you so much. Appreciate your time. Yep. Appreciate all the value you share. Appreciate your knowledge and appreciate you as a person. So
Thank you so much. Appreciate you too.
Catch you on the flip side, buddy. Talk to you soon.
You got it. Bye.